Hello to everybody. Thought I'd talk to you today about the subject of the men in black. Who are these people, or what are they, if they're people at all, and what do they want? For those who don't know, the men in black usually appear after people have had a UFO sighting or have claimed that they've had a UFO sighting, which is more to the point. Quite often, these characters will suddenly turn up at your door, knock on your door, ring your doorbell, and when you open it, you're confronted with some very strange individuals who are obviously dressed in black, hence the name, but also they appear to be not even human. They'll quite often have no facial hair at all. They wear hats normally, sort of old-fashioned trilby type hats or fedoras, which is more to the point. Dark clothing, and they'll all dressed identically. Sometimes they'll be wearing sunglasses, sometimes not. They're usually quite big and always very threatening and intimidating. And usually they start asking questions about, first of all, they ask you if they can come in, at which point people often decline and say no, and then they have the conversation that occurs on the doorstep. If people invite them in, and sometimes people get the impression that they can't say no, there's usually some kind of mind control on them. They end up in your house, and then they start threatening you or asking you initially about what you've seen, what you've done, and all the rest of it. And then, as soon as you mention there's anything to do with a UFO, they start to threaten people as to, it'd be better if you forgot all about it, we don't want people talking about this, etc., etc. They usually speak, from witness accounts, they usually speak in a very strange monotone voice with no sort of emotion attached to it at all. So the conversation is very stilted, very, as I say, monotone, and just generally strange. These people also don't act normally. They don't act like normal human beings. Funny thing is, though, they're very good at giving out threats. But if you attempt to get physical with them, they very quickly run off. They're obviously frightened of some kind of, or any kind of physical aggravation. So they're very big on threats and making threats and stuff, but they've nothing really to back it up. People say they often see them in old-fashioned cars, old American-style cars from the sort of 40s and 50s. And these cars will appear from nowhere quite often and disappear just as quickly. As if this is some kind of well, some people say it's moving from one dimension to another. Some people say it's some kind of a projection, like a hologram or a holographic projection of some description. Either way, it does tend to spook people. But as I say, most of the evidence is that on the few occasions when somebody gets a bit physical with them or threatens them back and becomes aggressive back towards them, they very quickly retreat out of the door and are quite often not seen again. Many people say that once they've been visited by the men in black, they'll quite often see sinister figures similar to the ones that have visited them, so hanging around across the street and keeping observation on them at all times of the day and night. Sometimes people report that the same individual is outside 24 hours a day, which again is odd behaviour to say the least. So you might think, well, the big question is, who are these people? Who are these individuals, should you say? There's two basic schools of thought here. The first one is that these are people from the government who have gone through some kind of makeup routine to make themselves look less human than make themselves look weird. In other words, they're just ordinary people who are trying to kid witnesses to UFOs. That they're not human, when in actual fact they are. They've shaved their eyebrows, they've shaved their heads, and they've probably put some kind of makeup on to make themselves the skin look a bit odd. And they talk in this monotone voice to be more and more aggressive looking or sounding or strange sounding, just look weird. As is this the strange thing with their clothing. You know, why do they all dress the same? Why do they always dress in black? Why are their clothing old fashioned? I mean, people say they look like something out of the 1940s. And, this looks like it's some kind of a con job by somebody in the government or something trying to keep this quiet. The thing that points to that, in my opinion anyway, is that most of these sightings, the men in black, most of these encounters, take place in America. People around the world who have seen UFOs tend not to get this. They may well be visited by somebody from the government who flashes some kind of credentials at them. They may be in uniform in some countries. They may be civilian, secret service type, intelligence services type people. Quite often, they tell them that they're from the government, but they don't actually specify where they're from. But these are not the men in black. These are just officials, if you like, trying to find out what's gone off. They probably read something in the papers or the media, seen it on TV if this person's been on, and then they'll follow it up to find out what's really happened to this person. Sometimes they'll try and put the frighteners on them. Look, you can't talk about this, national security, blah, blah, blah. But they're not actually, these people are sometimes, people use the words men in black, but they're actually not. They're not the definitive men in black that crop up in America. I can't remember a time when I've heard about an incident of the genuine men in black visiting somebody outside America. Now, I've seen stuff in Britain, for instance, where some official comes, well, officials, because they always seem to work in at least twos, sometimes threes, sometimes more. They'll come in interview, but they look like executive civil servants. They don't go this business of the sort of makeup job to make them look weird. This only tends to happen in America. But the strange thing is that there are some odd things that go with them, like these people suddenly disappear. There's been cases, for instance, whereby, I mean, this goes back to the days before mobile phones, for instance, where something bizarre will happen. Somebody who's seen something and reported it, or gone to the press or whatever, gone to the media, the papers, whatever, on TV, about a UFO or seeing aliens or something like this, having some kind of an encounter. They'll be sat in the home some days later and the phone will ring. This is the days before mobile phones, as I say. The phone will ring. Oh, we're so-and-so, monotone voice. We want to come and see you. And then they'll say, yeah, okay then, yeah, come around, whatever. They'll put the phone down. Next thing, bang, bang, bang at the door. And the same person who's just talked to them on the phone is now at the door. The split second after they've put the phone down. Now, in the days before mobile phones, this wasn't possible. There would have to be at least two people involved to do that, and they'd have to synchronize it down to the minute to get that to happen. So, technology was not available. I mean, it's dead easy to do it now. You could just ring from your phone outside, your mobile phone from outside. But in those days, going back to pre-mobile days, sometimes this goes back to the sort of 80s, 70s and earlier. How do you do that? It takes some doing, won't it? It's not impossible, I'll grant you. To be honest, I could do it because I've got a telecoms background. I've been in telecommunications industry since the mid-70s. There is a way I could do that without using mobile equipment. But it's a lot of messing about, to be honest. And, it's a bit strange that you do it. But people have reported this, that somebody's rung them up and said, oh, we'll come around to see you. And then bang, bang, bang on the door straight away. And that individual comes in and discusses what they've talked about during the phone conversation, which is a bit weird. It kind of freaks people out because they think, well, how did he get here so quick? Where did he phone me from? How's he got here so quick? And obviously, you know, if you're looking at reasoning behind that, what's the motive for doing that? Well, it's to freak people out. It's to make it look very odd and very strange. People also admit, or report, shall I say, that they've seen these people apparently just disappear. Or they'll be on a street, for instance, and there's nothing anywhere near, no cover nearby. The witness will look away and then look straight back and they've gone. Well, where did they go? There's been reports of them getting into vehicles that then just disappear in front of the witness's eyes. Again, that's very strange. A very strange situation. But like I said, this only tends to happen in America. Going back to who these people are, that's the hypothesis that these are from some clandestine American government agency that's trying to keep the UFO situation under wraps and using this sort of weird intimidation to silence witnesses. The second point of view is that these are actually aliens themselves. They don't want this being talked about, and they try and come along and they're pretending to be humans, but not making a very good job of it. These people do, these beings or whatever they are, don't look like people at all, and they just look totally blooming weird, to be quite honest. So if that's what they're doing, they're not making a very good job of it. And why they're wearing 1940s clothes is beyond me. I would have thought any race that could monitor the Earth like it is doing would realise that people don't dress like that anymore. So the only reason for doing that was to freak people out, or for some reason they'd want to do that. To do that, though, they'd have to have some understanding of what motivates people. They'd have to understand people being fearful, people being frightened, people being afraid of ridicule, that kind of thing. These are quite abstract concepts for an alien race to grasp and utilise to their advantage. So, you know, if I had to put my money on it, I'd say they're probably government. And the other thing is, if they were an alien race, why are they restricting themselves to America? They would do this all over the world, and you'd get the same MO all over the place. You know, somebody in Australia would have exactly the same thing. Somebody in Britain would have exactly the same thing. But generally speaking, that doesn't happen. It tends to be restricted to the United States. This kind of points to the American government or some kind of agency that only operates within the US being behind all this. But as I say, normally the setup is that they'll come in, ask you questions about what's happened. They'll then tell you that they don't want you talking about it, and then and sort of kind of threaten people. Sometimes it's quite bad threats, open threats of death threats, or bad things are going to happen to your family. This kind of thing. Some of them are a bit more obtuse than that. Some of them are a bit, you know, we can make it difficult for you. You'd be better off not saying anything, that kind of thing, you know. Sort of, you know, rather obtuse threats. But on the occasions when somebody's got physical with them or threatened them back, somebody's become, you know, quite belligerent with them, well, they scuttle off rather quickly from all accounts. And they appear to be extremely frightened. Beneath all the bluster and the threats, they appear to be very frightened of human beings, presumably because they are physically weak. If they're some kind of alien race, they're not very strong compared to us. So, particularly if it's a guy who's a decent size, he could probably do them a lot of harm. And it could be that that's the reason why they quickly, very, very quickly back off if you get physical with them or even threatening with them. Many cases of this happening, where most cases, of course, people are frightened. They're intimidated by the strangeness of the situation. These weird people or weird guys, whoever they are, coming at you and stuff like that. Also, the thing is, they catch people on the hop. You know, people are sat there at night. It's always at night. That's the other thing, when they come and visit. You sat there watching TV or doing something in your home at night, and then suddenly there's a knock on the door and you get that. Most people are ill prepared for that, so they've got the advantage of catching on the hop. But on the occasions when people have got belligerent, they very, very quickly back off, and they, generally speaking, don't come back. So possibly in that case, they used Plan B. Obviously, Plan A was the intimidation, and when that doesn't work, they'll use Plan B, which is a different scenario. But not a pleasant thing to happen, but one that does happen all too often. The interesting thing is, quite often, these men in black have got information about what has happened to the witness that wasn't revealed publicly, either in interviews or statements to the press. These entities, or whoever they are, these individuals, the men in black, seem to know an awful lot about what's happened to that individual that were not necessarily made public. So the question then is, well, how do they know? Of course, the government could well know, because they might have had people already talking to them, police or whatever, Air Force personnel or whatever. So that information could have come down that route. But if these are not government people, and they're some kind of alien, for want of a better word, visitor or visitors, how did they get to know? Well, that's open to debate. Have they been monitoring this person? Have they got the means to listen in to telephone conversations and stuff like that they've already had? Or have they got some way of reading that person's mind, for instance, so that they know what that person's done just by talking to them and looking at them, and they can read their mind and find out what they've done, which again is a worrying prospect if you happen to be one of the interviewees. But given the fact that they tend to run away from a physical conflict or confrontation, one of the tricks could be that if they start any of this game, coming to your house and threatening you, just think about doing something particularly nasty to them, and they'll read those thoughts for you if that's what you want. Who knows? But that's the Men in Black, and many encounters with this. It's almost become a format to a lot of people who have had experiences around aliens and ETs, if that's what they are. Personally, I think they're interdimensional in nature. I went away from the ET hypothesis a long time ago. Frankly, before everybody else was talking about interdimensional travel, interdimensional beings and stuff like that, which is something that's come about probably within the last 5 to 10 years. Well, I believe that, and wrote about it extensively, and got a lot of criticism for saying it too. 20 years ago in ufology, coming out 20, 30 years ago now, coming out and saying that these things were interdimensional was not popular. A lot of the die-hard sort of ET fans didn't like it when you talked about the interdimensional possibility. It was very fringe science as well at that time, but not many people were into it. Now it's pretty much accepted that there are other dimensions, and we don't quite know what the nature of it is. But I think we can all have a guess. Certainly I've had a guess, and I've told you about this many times on this very channel. Interdimensional beings can travel interdimensionally, which means once you've got the keys to that particular door, you can travel anywhere in time and space. So you're a time traveller, a space traveller. You're also an interdimensional traveller. So once you break down the concept of reality that we have, which is we're stuck in this linear progression through time, and we're stuck in this one plane of existence. Once you get that out of your head and you realise that there are lots of different dimensions, then suddenly the reality is completely different. People can travel instantly anywhere in the universe, instantly to any time, instantly through other dimensions, and that I feel that's one of the reasons why they're here, because they know from our technology that we're not far off from discovering this. And I don't think they're all that keen on us blundering about the universe and going through time travelling, while we're in the current state that humanity is in at the moment. And to be honest, I can't say I blame them. Can't say I blame them at all. You only have to look at our own planet, see what a mess it's in, and see see the psychopathic lunatics that are running it. To fully understand that any race looking at us, at the moment they're safe in their environment because we can't get to them. We don't have the secrets of interdimensional travel. But when we do, we could be dropping in on them uninvited in the state that we are now. And if you're in an existence where everything's peaceful and calm and everything's ordered and everything runs nicely, you probably don't want humans coming in, blundering around, bringing their guns with them. Because that's, you can just imagine, can't you? What would happen if somebody suddenly developed a machine that could travel in anywhere, to any time, to any place in the universe and to any other dimension where there's other beings. What equipment are they going to take with them on their first little journey? Well, you can guarantee they'll be armed to the teeth, won't they? And as soon as they see anything that moves, they'll be firing at it, because that seems to be the ethos that pervades these people who are in the military, and the high scientific people seem to be under this illusion that they can go around and bully everybody and take weapons around and stuff like that. Well, probably ain't going to work that. So I think that they're probably at the moment instructing humanity in various ways not to develop this technology. But if they do develop this technology, or we get very close to it, they may well become a lot more belligerent, and patience may well run out. And this equipment and whatever might be sort of taken out of commission, because these people aren't ready for us. Now, they're visiting us, just keeping an eye on us, but they do it from sort of arm's length. They kind of watch us, but without really interacting with us, unless they can help it. And they certainly wouldn't want humanity in its current form coming into their environment, into their domain, wherever it is that they're living. Dimension, different planet, different place in this universe, different time zone. I mean, these could be beings from the future, for instance, coming back and having a look, see what's going on. Now, if they see that we're near to getting something that will give us time travel, well, they're not keen on that, are they? Because we might go forward in time and start making things difficult for them where they are, or upsetting whatever current times have been involved in place, disrupting the future, in other words. And that could be something that won't be tolerated. But anyway, that's my thoughts on the Men in Black. I'm sure other people will think differently. That always seems to be the case. And I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.